Have you ever stood at a bus stop, watched one of those massive city buses roll in, and thought, wait, where exactly is the engine on this thing? No roar from the front, no hood popping up, no heat blasting into your face when it passes. Just silence from the front and a low mechanical hum trailing from somewhere behind. Most people step on, grab a seat, and never think twice about it. But that one small detail where the engine sits quietly controls everything about your ride. The floor you walk on, the noise you don't hear, the driver's ability to see you before you step off the curb. This isn't just an engineering footnote. It's a decision that took decades to figure out. And once you understand why it happened, you'll never look at a city bus the same way again. Welcome to Simple Things Analysis, where the ordinary things you walk past every single day turn out to have an extraordinary story hiding underneath. Let's go back. Early buses weren't designed from scratch. They were basically trucks wearing a passenger costume. The engine sat up front, right behind the driver, exactly the way a delivery truck is built today. That logic made sense at the time, because the same factories making trucks were making buses. Same platform, different body. But here's what nobody talks about. That front engine created a physical problem inside the bus that passengers felt every single time they boarded. The engine needed space, and that space pushed upward through the floor, creating a raised hump running down the center or front section of the cabin. Passengers had to step up to get over it. Elderly riders struggled. People with heavy bags stumbled. In an emergency evacuation, that hump slowed everyone down. And then there was the weight. A heavy engine planted at the front, combined with a full load of passengers sitting toward the back, put enormous uneven stress on the front axle. In cities running dozens of buses on the same routes every single day, that imbalance chewed through vehicles and roads faster than anyone wanted. Something had to move, and that something was the engine. When engineers flipped the layout and moved the engine to the back, it didn't just solve one problem. It solved a chain of problems that had been quietly stacking up for decades. First, the floor. With no engine bulk sitting under the front of the bus, the entire floor could drop down flat and low. Modern city buses sit roughly 12 to 14 inches off the ground at the front door, low enough that a small ramp replaces what used to require a full hydraulic lift. One person who struggled to board before can now simply walk on. Second, the weight. Engines sitting over the rear axle, passengers distributed across the full length of the cabin. The load now balances between both axles properly. More passengers, legally, less wear on the road, better stability going around corners. Third, and this one surprises people, the driver's view. With no engine block sitting between the driver and the road ahead, designers could push the windshield further forward and lower the hood almost completely. The driver can now see pedestrians, cyclists, and curbs up close in a way that was physically impossible with a front engine sitting in the way. One decision, 3 compounding benefits. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting, because moving the engine to the back created new problems that required clever solutions. The engine in a rear-mounted bus doesn't sit upright the way you'd picture an engine. It lies horizontally, on its side, tucked into a tight compartment. The whole drivetrain had to be redesigned around this orientation just to make it physically fit. Then there's heat. An engine sealed inside a rear compartment in a hot city in summer generates serious thermal management challenges. The radiators couldn't stay at the front anymore. They moved to the roof or the upper rear of the bus, pulling air in through vents, cycling it, and pushing heat out without any of it entering the passenger cabin. And here's the detail most passengers never notice. The entire rear compartment opens outward like a hatchback. Mechanics can pull and service the complete powertrain without ever touching the interior of the bus. On older front engine layouts, the same job often meant dismantling the driver's cab just to reach the engine. Time is money in transit operations. The rear layout made maintenance faster, cheaper, and less disruptive. Every trade-off was solved with a specific, deliberate answer. You've felt this engineering even if you've never named it. Step onto a city bus and the floor is flat, no hump. No step up midway through the aisle. You walk from the front door to the back door like you're walking down a hallway. Sit near the front and notice what you don't hear. No engine vibration rattling through the seat. No mechanical noise drowning out conversation. The engine is 30 feet behind you, wrapped in soundproofing, separated entirely from where you're sitting. And if you've ever ridden a long-distance coach bus, the kind with luggage storage underneath, that entire storage compartment exists because the rear engine cleared out the space under the floor. Your suitcase rides in what used to be wasted mechanical space. Electric buses are now beginning to erase this entire conversation. When there's no combustion engine at all, the motor can sit directly at the axle. The floor question mostly disappears. The weight management challenge shifts entirely to the battery pack, a new problem, with new solutions being engineered right now. But here's the thing, none of that happens without the 70-year process of rear engine design first forcing engineers to rethink the flat floor, the weight balance, and the passenger experience from scratch. Electric buses didn't arrive at a good layout by accident. They inherited one. The next time a bus pulls up and you step onto that flat floor without thinking, that's not an accident. That's the result of real problems, real failures, and a design shift that quietly transformed how millions of people move through cities every single day. That's what Simple Things Analysis is here for. If you want the hidden story behind the things you walk past every day, you're in exactly the right place. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.